Hello and welcome to another episode of Quiet in the Library. I'm your host, Reggie, and we're actually having a very special podcast this time just for talking about a little bit of updates that are going on inside of Destiny. I have a very special guest with me, Miss Michaela. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me, Reg.
Perfect. That's good. We also have Linux with us, who you may hear at some point either chewing on this computer or possibly the mic. But yeah.
And Kate has also joined us.
Oh yes.
Kate
the cat has also joined us, so it will be a grand time. So we just kind of get to talk about just Destiny in general. I think that would be a good spot to kind of wrap up all of the man with no name and like thoughts about this current season going into next season. So How do you feel? How do you feel about where we're at right now with what we're doing?
With what's going on with Bungo?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're seeing great improvements from Bungie now that they're no longer shackled to Activision.
True.
I do still see, some Eververse transactions being pushed. And Bright Dust still being a very hot commodity.
It's not the best system.
It's not.
Right now.
But I don't think it's, we're not at that EAE.
Yeah, we're close. we're very close, but I think that Eververse has needed help since the inception of it.
Yes.
I don't think it's not necessarily a bad thing, just because I think the transactions and items that you receive through Eververse
right.
Can be useful up to a point, especially with some of the finishers, some of the skins that you get.
Right. The fact that it's all cosmetic, though, I do enjoy that.
Yes.
It's not something that's going to, let somebody buy to win the game.
Right. And I feel like that's integral because lots of people would just pay to win at that point. And then, you just become a different company that wants to do that. But since Bungie has put so much emphasis into creating something a little bit more cohesive in terms of storytelling as well as staying in touch with the community and really listening to them, I think with possibly some of the changes that could come of Eververse as we go into this next season of Dawning. Is it the Dawning or Dawn?
Dawning.
Yes.
Dawning.
Yeah. Season of Dawning. That'll be a good thing just to kind of see where we go from there in terms of the transactions. But what did you feel about this current season? Did you enjoy some of the
Season of the Undying?
Yes, Season of the Undying. Did you participate in any of the activities?
Of course. Reginald, you know me.
Well, I most certainly did not. I was chained to Gambit and Crucible, and
Gambito.
Yeah, it was very hard for me to change. And I think throughout the entire season, I probably did 2 missions on Mars.
What?
Or the moon. Yeah, I probably did 2 missions on the moon.
Moon's haunted.
Yeah, but the moon is haunted. I did go through the Haunted Forest multiple times while that event was active. But I don't think I did 1 Vex offensive.
What?
I saw...
It's so quick to level up. I
know I did. But I couldn't do it. I just did not. I did not feel like doing it, and I think just focusing a lot of my time on, Gambit, and especially with the man with no name, it just kind of all solidified in that. And I think that a lot of my skills, as I've gone through and just continued to get better,
you are the PvP guy.
In that, it's just that's where my focus was. So that's where I like to stay. So I think for the next one, I definitely am going to be getting into the Sundial.
We're going to do Sundial together.
Yes. So I saw a bit of the vid doc for the Sundial, but did you watch the vid doc?
I came home 2 hours early to watch it.
Perfect. So for our viewers at home that don't know what the Sundial is, could you give us a brief overview of what that will actually entail?
Absolutely. So if you remember in a previous Destiny season, we had something called the Menagerie come out.
Mm-hmm.
And that was our big boy Callus
giving
us, some more tasks for him. Mm-hmm. It was a 6-man group. You could either do heroic or non. Heroic, you did have to have your own fire team.
Okay.
Non-heroic, it's just pug, pick up group, have fun.
Right.
Sundial is going to be our boy Osiris, who I have loved since D1.
Osiris is pretty cool. I do like Osiris and all of his comings and goings.
He's been very intriguing ever since the Trials came out in D1, and you and I dabbled in those a little bit.
Yeah. Are they bringing Trials back?
God, I hope so.
Okay.
But no announcement on that yet, since Crucible is still not where it needs to be. It's in a better spot than it's been, but it's not where it needs to be. I don't know if we'll see Trials this season.
Yeah, because Crucible... Here's my two things with Crucible, before we go any further in terms of the Sundial. Crucible right now, competitive is still lots of fun. I think some of the changes that they might need to employ for competitive might need to be some either class modifiers,
yes,
or some type of stage modifier. Possibly wherever you play, you get something a little bit different.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting in the fact that, a lot of people played competitive, and even me, number one, just to get, what's the weapon that you get from competitive?
Which one? Recluse?
Recluse, yeah. Yeah, Recluse, because Recluse it's a big boy.
It still is a big boy, too.
It still is a big boy before it gets nerfed. As well as the one-eyed helm.
Yep.
The Titan.
One-eyed man.
Yeah, that one. The Titan one that was really good in PvP.
Yeah, it was broken.
But yes, it was extremely broken, and I took full advantage of that.
I mean, who wouldn't, right?
Yeah. So
if it's a game mechanic, you can't get mad at it.
Yeah, no. So I think with the fact that they're aware of, wow, lots of people are playing competitive to get to this one point and then just get this weapon and then just
drop out
and do whatever else. I also believe that a lot of what makes Crucible special, at least like it did for me, was just the camaraderie and then the fun that you have. But with a myriad of different modes that you can choose from now, there's so much variety in all of those different places, but for the most part, people are either going to be in competitive or they're just going to be playing, either control. I'm not really seeing a whole bunch of supremacy right now, but obviously that's for the rotation.
Right.
But I would love to see some modifiers, especially for Banner, just because Banner's been, the same for a little bit of time. And
2 years.
Yeah. And I think that it definitely needs a bit of a shakeup. I do like the fact that it does have this control play style where it locks the things, but there's not too much else that you can really go from that.
Right.
So
it needs some more diversity in it.
Yeah. If we were able to get some type of mod or something where you do have particular different playlists inside of Iron Banner, which I think might have a nice effect, whether it was Supremacy or whether it was a Mayhem.
Oh,
if there was a Mayhem banner, wow, that would be fantastic.
Mayhem is my favorite playlist.
Yes. So I think just spitballing here, if we had a lot of those other ideas come to fruition, maybe that's something that they're either working on for right now. Sure. Especially moving into what technically this would be the sunset of D2, because they, in a previous vid doc, they said that they've got this season, or Season of Undying, Dawning, another one coming, and I think they have 3 more after that. Possibly. Yeah. Before we get into, talk of D3. So, and since each season is about, 60 days?
Just about, give or so.
So, I would expect us to see something at least by Q1 2021, at the very least.
Yeah, I can see it.
Even if something even gets announced at E3 this year, I don't think that we'll really see or hear much news until then. Because right now, I think it's still doing really well. There's nothing wrong with D2 as it currently is.
No.
But there's definitely lots of things to be explored, especially with choices that you've made, stories that they're going through, and people that they're bringing back.
Absolutely.
Case in point, good old Saint 14, the greatest Titan, will be making an appearance in the Dawning. And that just brings up more questions than we have answers for. So from your thoughts, why do you think that they're bringing Saint 14 back? Are they doing a end game thing here? Are we looking at some quantum mechanics? Are we looking at some, where's the time stone? What's happening?
I feel like a lot of the community was upset when D2 dropped and the Red Legion came.
Uh-huh.
And it was so easy to bring them down.
Yeah.
And I feel like Bungie kind of took that to heart and was like, you know what? You're right. Let's maybe bring back the Red Legion. Let's revisit what would have happened had the Red Legion won.
Yeah. And here's my thing. I've always had like a love affair with
Dominus Gall.
Dominus Gall and all of them, like they didn't have a huge campaign in the first one. No. They didn't have enough time in the first one to really, when they started to get to be a threat was in Taken King.
Right.
But at that point it was more about the stage than the actual enemies.
Right.
At that point we're more worried about Oryx and the story with exploring the Dreadnought and finding everything that was inside there versus being like, oh, they're here because I see their ship crashed into them. So are they, clearly they're conquerors, but maybe they're not good conquerors.
Maybe they're bad guys.
Maybe they're just bad conquerors. They're not good at their job. So I kind of find it interesting that they're going back and, revisiting what could have been with the Red Legion. And the fact of the matter is that there's way more story to tell and way more possibilities to go with.
Right. If
you have the liberty to change pretty much whatever you want.
Right.
So if you bring back a character that we thought was dead for quite some time, that also brings into the question, what other people could we bring back? At this point, my thought, and we had a conversation about this the other day, was in the campaign for D2, Cade was definitely in that little time loop during the campaign.
Yep.
At that point, is there going to be a spot in the Dawning where we can go back to that? I know that we're here, I'm not sure because of Mercury and the Infinite Force, I'm not sure if there's a way to get back to, he was on where, not Io, Nessus.
He was on Nessus.
He was on Nessus. Yeah, so he was on Nessus, so that's quite a ways away, but the Vex Tech pretty much can go just about everywhere.
Right.
So at this point, if he is stuck in some type of time loop,
could we grab him?
Could there be potential to grab Cade, who is a fan favorite and honestly your favorite?
I didn't name my cat after him.
Yeah, I mean you only named your cat. I'm looking at a throne of him right here.
I mean, he's all over my desk.
Yeah, he truly is.
I think I have 10 statues of him in here.
Yes, he truly is. So, I think as we kind of continue inside of where we're going to be going for the rest of the season, it's going to be interesting just to see the choices that have been made.
It will be interesting. And, I've been creeping the IMDb a little bit.
Okay.
I'm trying not to spoil too much for myself.
Right.
And I'm not going to drop any names, but if you do feel the fancy to check the IMDb for Destiny 2, there are some interesting returners
of course
to this game.
That would be good. And I've always thought between that, if they were to bring Cade back, if they were to bring Saint back,
Speaker.
They're bringing back Saint. He was if they brought back Speaker, but here's my thing with the Speaker, because he kept so many secrets, and because he really didn't tell a lot of people anything other than the stories that we got inside of D2 for the campaign, I'm not sure if his return would really mean
all that much.
Oh yeah, it would. It's would it be impactful enough for the community to be wow, let's get behind this guy, or no, I really don't want to hang out with him because he's he was kind of a douche nozzle to the rest of everybody else. But at the same time, there could be so many things that could be said along the people that do follow the light, which could also be a really good segue into Drifter and his decision, and the decision that you had to make with the tower whether or not to basically snitch on him.
Do you side with?
I totally sided with Drifter. You know this. Yes,
no, I sided
told
with
you.
the Vanguard.
I told you this.
I could not go against Boo Boo's
No,
Vanguard.
and here's